this camera right here, also this one right here, and this one, and also this one, this one, this one, and this one, and lastly this one, the back. Hello guys, LifeHackster here. I just finished a 12 camera NVR system setup and install, and I just want to share with you guys what I learned, because I learned a lot, and also made a rookie mistake that cost me mostly just time, but it took me another 4 to 6 hours to troubleshoot and fix what I did. And lastly, my thoughts on this commercial install, if this is worth it if you have a business in a commercial location, or be better off hiring professionals to install the cameras for you. So my wife and a friend got in a business venture and leased this business space where this is going to be a physical therapy clinic and a gym. And they asked me if I can help out setting up a security camera system for it. And this is a pretty big space, I think around 2,500 square feet. It has a combination of drop ceilings and also just an open space. With drop ceilings, it is easy to route and hide the wiring, but in this open space, it will be a bit of a challenge. So I'm just gonna walk around and see where we are going to install the cameras. First, we are going to install one here that's gonna face the front door. Second is right around this corner where it's gonna also face the front door and also monitor the front desk. Also a third one right here that's going to face this hallway and also on the front door. And then the end of this hallway, we're going to install another one facing this hallway. And then their lounge area, we're going to install one somewhere here or probably here. And then this is the gym area. I'm thinking just putting one on each corner, one in there, and then on the other side, just to monitor this space. We have rooms right here, and we're not gonna place any cameras for privacy reasons. And then the front desk, we're gonna install one to monitor the front desk. But what I'm planning to do is put the NVR right here and also the monitor right here. Might be a TV, probably less than 32 inches. We will also install one camera somewhere here to monitor the front door. And lastly, we are gonna monitor also the back door area. And I'm thinking of installing one somewhere there to monitor this door and also this utilities area right here. And this is probably where the hardest install, because I have to go through and drill through a metal siding right here and also in the front door. But that will be the challenge on this install. Everything else and inside should be fine and easy. Because of the number of areas that needs to be monitored, we decided to go with an NVR system. I reached out to Reolink and they were more than happy to donate and provide the cameras and the NVR for this project. So thank you very much, Reolink. We appreciate it. I told them that I'll need around 10 to 12 cameras and I want a dome or turret type ones so it doesn't stick out like the bullet type cameras. And I want the two for the outside to be Vandal Proof. They suggested the RLC-842As, and this is mostly because I can adjust the zoom and also has a wider field of view in the wide end. This is a versatile turret type camera that you can customize its field of view. And I will link these cameras down below. And for the Vandal Proof ones, they sent me their new 840 and their 843As. Which unfortunately it didn't work out for this installation, and I'll tell you why here in a bit. But I'll do a separate review video on these cameras. And lastly, they sent me their 16-channel NVR with a 4TB hard drive. Also, I purchased Reolink's junction box, which I will most likely need in the front camera install so as to hide the wiring. And I also have Reolink's wall mount bracket, which I'm planning to install for their Vandal Proof camera for the back area. As for the cable, I decided to purchase the Cat5e, and this is mostly for ease of routing the wiring than anything, because Cat6 cables are thicker and stiffer to work with. And Cat5es are more than enough for direct plug-in cameras to the back of the NVR, which is the setup that I'm going to do. As to the tools, I have the usual like the Klein Tools pass-through crimper and have the pass-through connectors, and I'll talk more about this later. And we got some drill bits and wire rods to help route the cables. So first thing I need to do is route the cables from where we are going to put the NVR to the respective camera placements. I have to make this existing hole bigger to get the wiring for the cameras that are in the drop ceiling. Routing cables in a tile drop ceiling, as I said earlier, is easy. You just need to be able to throw that wiring over to the area you want the camera installed. Now, with ceiling tiles, they are really not made to hold screws. This one is made of fiberglass insulation and plaster. To hold the camera mount, I'll be using toggle bolts. First, drill the holes for the screws or for the bolts and drill the hole for the cable. Push in the machine screws and just screw in the wing nuts, and these wings are going to keep the camera onto the tile. So I'll just demo how to install the camera. Feed the wiring through, and with the 833A, just align the tabs on the mount to the camera and rotate the camera base until it locks in place. The top part you can rotate and also tilt the lens to the position that you want. When I started to terminate the cable to install the RJ45 pass-through connectors, first thing I learned and I realized that the client tool, which also has the strip feature, will not strip Cat5Es. It is only designed for the thicker Cat6 cables. It does crimp Cat5e and 6s though, so I have to use my trusty old stripper to strip the Cat5es. I'll use a better camera to demo the crimping, straighten out the twisted pairs, and you can use the sheath that you strip to straighten out the wires. Cut the white string. And following the guide on the client tool, line up the wires, striped orange, orange, striped green, blue, striped blue, green, striped brown, and brown. Push in the connector, tab down, and the extra wires will pass through it. This will make sure that you will crimp all the wires. And make sure again that the wires are in the proper sequence. Then crimp. The client tool will also automatically cut the extra wires. To show you how to use the weatherproof lid, first thread in the cap, then the rubber O-ring, and then this rubber tube which has a slit on it. Wrap it around the cable. Then push in the longer piece with tines first. Slide the rubber gasket with the tines over it. This is the one that will make it waterproof. Slide the rubber O-ring like so. Connect the Ethernet cable, slide the whole piece, then lock it on this end. And screw in the cap, and you will see that the rubber gasket swells up, making the connection waterproof. It is not really needed to use this indoors, but just to show you. And put back the ceiling towel with the camera on it. Make sure the cables are all on top. On to the open space gym area, and another thing I learned about commercial installs is that there is barely any wood if there is any. Studs are galvanized steel, so one thing that I need to invest is a step drill bit. Like 50 bucks for this one that can make wider than an inch hole. And it does make clean big holes though. I then drill at least 3/4 of an inch hole in the drywall. Fish and pull the cable out. Screw in the camera mount, terminate the cable, plug in the camera and feed the wires onto the wall. Then align the camera to its mount and lock it in place. To drill a hole for the front outside camera, I do need a long masonry bit because the front has a cement backer board for a wall. Also, this is the only area in the front that I can drill into to hide the wires and also monitor not just the door but also the glass wall in the front. Remove the drill from the bit, and I then taped the cable on the end of the drill bit. And from the outside, I pulled out the bit with the cable attached to it. Terminate the cable, and because it is a smaller hole, I have to use a junction box to hide the camera cables. I initially installed the Vandal Proof 842A here, but the thing about Vandal Proof cameras is that they are limited in adjustability when installed in a wall. They're not able to pivot left or right. It can tilt up or down and can rotate, which skews the orientation. So I use another 833A here, which works better. As to the back, it is galvanized steel wall. I just need the longer drill bit to drill to the metal, and also onto the drywall on the inside. I have to use the wire rod to pull out the Ethernet cable. Also, the junction box will not fit between the wall bands, so the better solution will be the Reolink bracket mount for their Vandal Proof cameras. Except that this bracket will not fit their new 843A and 840As. It will only fit their older 842As, 542s, or 422, which I do have and will use the 842A. Reolink will most likely make a bracket mount for the newer Vandal Proof ones pretty soon. Just screw in the bracket, which I use self-tapping galvanized screws meant for roofing. And to make this weatherproof, I silicone the bracket to the wall, then push and tuck in the wires. Also, another thing about Vandal Proof cams is that they are also a bit harder to install than regular cameras, because you do have to open up the Vandal Proof dome to screw in the camera. But usually it has a string attached to it so it will not fall off. Screw in the camera with the machine screws included in the wall bracket. Now, I have to be careful here. Dropping a tiny screw 12 foot up will be a bit hard to find on the ground. Then align the camera to the position that you want. And most likely I will still need to adjust this later on, but screw back in the dome using a Torx driver. Now, on the location where I will install the NVR and monitor, I drilled a hole on top, and on the wall down close to it, I'll cut a space for a box. Feed all these Ethernet cables from the cameras down onto the hole and pull them out through the hole in the wall. I then use this plastic box and feed the cables in and push it into the hole. And when screwing in the screws, the tabs will secure it to the wall. Then I can use this brush faceplate and feed all the cables through, and now I can screw in the faceplate to the box, making it a clean looking install. And now time to terminate the camera cables and crimp in the plugs for them. I then use a labeler to label the cables to make sure which camera is which. Time to set up the NVR. Plug in the cameras on the back. Strap in the cables for a tidier look. Plug in the HDMI from the NVR to your monitor. Plug in the power supply to the NVR. Plug in the mouse. Plug in the Ethernet cable to your network. And plug the other end to the LAN port on the back of the NVR. Plug in the monitor and the NVR and turn them on. Do the initial setup and you set up your master password. And sadly, only 4 cameras out of 12 turned on. You know that feeling that you worked this hard and planned this well and still didn't work? Yep. That's how I felt. I know it is in the wiring. Might be I messed up with the wire colors, which I'm pretty sure I didn't because I double checked every time. Might be a bad crimping, which they looked fine. And then I looked at the pass-through connectors and I noticed the label. Cat 6. Dang. Then it hit me. I used this Cat 6 connectors on the Cat 5e wiring, which doesn't work. By the way, they look exactly the same and no markings anywhere to differentiate them. Long story short, spent another 4 hours fixing and replacing the connectors on both the NVR side and on the camera themselves, so that took some time. After all said and done, everything worked. All 12 cameras streaming in the monitor. The front is being monitored by a 833A installed in a junction box. Inside, in the drop ceilings, 833As monitor the area which are attached to the ceiling tiles. The gym area also monitored by 833As attached to the wall. And the back area is monitored by Reolink's Vandal Proof 842A installed in a wall bracket. Linking the Reolink NVR to the Reolink app for remote access and notifications is pretty easy. Open up the app and click the plus sign. Scan the QR code which is on the NVR. Type in the password that you set during setup, and you will see the cameras loading up on the app. You don't need to set up another location or account. Let's say if you have multiple locations, all cameras in here shows up, and also my Reolink cameras at home in one interface. And like my Reolink doorbell at home, loads up fine. And the cameras here also loads up pretty quick. And I'm on 5G cellular connection. As to the notifications, I'll just set smart notifications and just need to schedule them after the business closes and before it opens. And you can set this up for each of the cameras. Like, I really don't need notifications for the outside cams because of the foot traffic. Just the inside ones at night. I can also set the camera's alarm to go off when person is detected and set it in a schedule, like when nobody is supposed to be here. Alright, so what are my thoughts? Well, you can definitely DIY this to save some money. But also you'll most likely be buying some tools like the client crimper to terminate the Ethernet cables, long drill bits, and for a commercial building, definitely metal and concrete or masonry bits. Now, one thing that you can also do though, because the hardest part of this install, which also the same when you try to install this setup in your house, is running and routing the cables. So if you contract this out and just tell them where to route the cables and just do the NVR and camera setup by yourself, this can also be a cost-effective option. And remember, you only need to do this wiring one time. And when you change cameras and NVR, you will be using the same Ethernet cables. Oh, by the way, we are talking about NVR and IP cameras here. Don't buy the older tech analog DVR systems that uses BNC cables, which also needs a separate 12-volt power supply. They will eventually be phased out. Now, if you have mostly drop ceilings and you just want to monitor the inside, this is going to be a pretty easy install. And you can just use the included Ethernet cables that comes in the NVR camera kit, or you can buy the pre-cut 50 or 100-foot cables. You can also buy Ethernet couplers if you need more than 100 feet. Just note, there is a max of around 300 feet per run. Overall, this project is a lot of fun and definitely I learned a thing or two. There might be a part 2 in this video though, because the placement of the NVR and the monitor might change. Because my wife is planning to remove the built-in desk. So we will see. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.